Hi friends, it's Deanna here today, and today we're going to be working on the Be Bold top and dress pattern. I am actually going to be making the button-up front top version, and it is so cute. I can't wait to sew it up with you, so let's go ahead and do it. All right, the first thing we gotta do is we're gonna grab our bodice. Again, this is the button-up version. So I'm going to have the split front. If you're not doing the button-up version, you will not have to have the split front. I'm gonna go ahead and grab it, and this is the raw edge that goes in the front. My arm side is over here on the other side. To the wrong side, I'm going to go ahead and add some interfacing because we want to reinforce that for when we apply our buttons. We don't want our buttons to rip up our fabric once we have them, so when we're putting them on and off, because we go through all this trouble and then we end up putting buttons on and they rip our dress when we're taking it on and off. We don't want that to happen, so that's why we want to go ahead and add some interfacing, and I'm doing that to both. And once I'm done adding that interfacing, I'm going to go over either to my sewing machine and do a zigzag stitch, or with my serger, which is what I'm doing. I'm going to use my serger, and we're going to finish that raw edge on the inside, the outside raw edge, so that it doesn't unravel on us as we're sewing it. So let's do that. Once we've finished that raw edge, so it won't unravel, we're going to fold it back that inch towards the wrong side and seam, and we'll do that for both. And we're going to go to our sewing machine and top stitch the outer edge and then the inside edge where our seam is at. So we're going to go ahead and do 2 top stitching lines, and we're going to do one at 1/8 of an inch from each side. Now that we've got that placket in the front pieces, we're going to go ahead and grab our back piece and lay it right side up on our mat. And then we're going to match up the front pieces to that back piece. Here's the arm side, so we're gonna match up the one that has the arm side on that side, which is not this one. So it must be this one. Here's our arm side. We're gonna match it right sides together right here at that side seam. Now, when we're sewing woven, sometimes I like to go the extra mile and do a maybe like a serge edge or a zigzag edge to finish those raw edges together, and also a straight stitch edge on there, because I want to make sure that it's reinforced and it's not going to come apart. So I'll go ahead and sew with my serger, and a lot of times I'll go back with my sewing machine and go right inside that serge edge and just give it a reinforced extra step, so that when I'm wearing it and all that stuff like that, it doesn't fray. Especially I'm going to do it with this fabric because this is a very thin fabric, and we don't want it to split or serge edge and then come apart at the side seams. So that's why I will be doing both steps. So you'll see that and you'll be like, why is she doing that with the serger and with the sewing machine? Well, that's why, because I want to reinforce it, especially on the sides. I might not do that like on the sleeves and other places, but on the sides, because sometimes it's got a little bit of stretching on the sides, I don't want it to tear apart. So that's why I like to do it on the sides at least. So let's go ahead and do that on those 2 sides. And you'll be doing this step as well if you're doing the solid, not with the button up. So you'll just have the front and the back together. This is where you would start your process. So let's sew it. Our bodice is ready and ready for our sleeves. Now, if you're doing, well, what I like to do is I always like to go ahead and steam my seams. And I like to steam them with the seam going the same way, all the way up and down. So that way it doesn't give you like a wiggly seam. And you'll see how right there it is serged, and then there's a little line right underneath it where I reinforced it with my sewing machine to just make it really strong with this really thin fabric. You just want to be careful with that. Okay, so now if you're doing your dress is sleeveless, you will go ahead and turn this sleeve. You can serge it or zigzag stitch it to reinforce it, and then fold it in and top stitch, so like a hem around the arm side. Or some people like to do fold over, I mean, they like to do some bias tape. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. Some people like to just use bias tape at along the edge of their arm if you're doing sleeveless. Either one of those would work. If you're doing bias tape, you're just doing a 1-to-1 ratio, so you just sew it all the way around. I am doing short sleeves, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to grab it and I am going to sew that raw edge. But before I sew the raw edge together, I like to go ahead and do a memory crease for where I'm going to sew. Now, there's an option you can do, go ahead and serge the raw edge first and then fold it again, and that's how you're going to get your hem. Or you can do fold it a 1/4 inch up and then a 1/4 inch again, so that's a double fold at the bottom, and that's the option I'm doing. And so I'm gonna go ahead and do that fold now, so that way when I'm getting ready to sew it, my fold is already on there. It makes it a little bit easier. But when I go to sew the arms to the sleeve together right here at this raw edge on the inside corner, I don't leave it folded. I unfold it, sew it, and then I fold it as I hem it. So we're gonna do that for both sleeves. And remember, I am sewing these two sleeves right sides together right here at the raw edge. I'm just going to do my serger or a zigzag stitch, and then if you wanted to reinforce just like I did on the top, you can do that as well. All right, time for our sleeve. We're going to open up that arm side, and we're gonna do it for both. Then we're gonna grab our sleeve right side out so that we can match right sides together. We're going to match it first at that center seam, and then we're gonna go up to one side, matching those raw edges, and then to the other side, and then we're gonna go ahead and sew it on all the way around, and we're gonna do it for both sleeves. All right, now with our sleeve, if you are doing your elastic, a sleeve with elastic in it, you would go ahead and either serge that raw edge first or zigzag stitch it to reinforce it, and you would fold it up, and then you would fold it up again for 1/2 inch. You would sew it up again 1/2 inch, and then you would top stitch, and you would leave a 1 to 2 inch gap to insert that 1/4 inch elastic in there to bring it in. But since I'm not doing the elastic, I'm going to go ahead and just fold over and fold over like I did earlier. So just steam that seam a little bit again, that memory crease that I created earlier. And then I'm going to go to my sewing machine and top stitch it so we can hem that sleeve on both. Time for a ruffle. Okay, so if you're doing like I am making the button up, we're gonna go ahead and steam that fold where the fold is, open it up, and we're going to cut right there because we need two front ruffles. We need to split them up. Okay, almost there. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hem first we're gonna sew them together. So I'm gonna grab my back ruffle, which is still in one piece, and I'm going to grab my front ruffle, which is in two pieces, and sew them together at those slanted raw edges, because these are gonna be like the pieces that go on your shoulder. So we're gonna sew both sides. Again, this is another one of those that you can do zigzag stitch and then reinforcement straight stitch, depending on your fabric too. You wanna make sure it's not gonna come unraveled. You put all this hard work into it, and you don't want it to come apart when you're wearing it. So we're doing the right sides together. I'm gonna do it for both. I'm gonna go sew it over there. And after I sew these together, we're gonna go ahead and hem it all the way around. All right, so I steamed that seam because I just love steaming. No, not because I love steaming, but because I want it to be nice and straight. And we're going to that front piece. This is the front. We're going to fold a 1/4 inch in, just like we did with the sleeve. 1/4 inch in, and then another 1/4 inch in. And we're going to do that also for the other side and for the bottom of the ruffle. So we're gonna go ahead and hem our ruffle up, hem it before we attach it. Okay, so I'm gonna go all the way down hemming. Our ruffle is done. I'm super excited because it's coming together and I can't wait until I'm finished because I love the look of this top and I am super excited. It's one of those patterns that like I totally had forgotten about. When it came out, I was like, oh, I love that pattern, I need to make it. And then I bought it and I totally forgot. I don't know if you ever do that. I mean, I do that all the time. And then all of a sudden I saw some people posting it and I'm like, oh, this pattern, I have it, I want it, let's make it, you know? So I'm here to make it. Okay, so because I have the button option, I am going to attach, I'm going to place this ruffle starting at after the inch where our placket is. I'm gonna place that ruffle right there, wrong sides together. I mean the wrong side of the ruffle touching the right side of the top, and I'm gonna match that top raw edge and go all the way around. If you have the solid option, you're just gonna put it right on top and go all the way around. If you want to find your half of your sleeve out here at the end, that should be where your seam touches of your side seam of your ruffle, that side seam. So that should all even out, which it does, and pin that top raw edge, and then we're gonna go ahead and sew it together. You can go ahead and baste it first and then like serge it or zigzag stitch it or whatever you wanna do to finish that raw edge, because then we're gonna come around and fold it down and do the casing for the elastic. So I'm going to go ahead and pin all the way around, and then I'm gonna go over to my serger and serge it to serge both of those edges together. Let's sew it. Now that I've attached my ruffle onto my top, I'm going to create my casing for my elastic. We're going to fold that top edge down wrong side towards the wrong side, 3/4 inch, and we're going to top stitch it. So I'm going all the way around, folded that down 3/4 inch, and then I'm gonna go in and top stitch it closed. Actually, I think it's a little bit too much. I think that was like a whole inch. So let's fix that. 1/4 inch all the way around. All right. So now that it's folded 3/4 inch, we're gonna go in and we're going to top stitch that raw edge down to create that casing where our elastic is gonna go in right through there. All right, now it is time to insert our elastic. And I'm just gonna use a safety pin. I couldn't remember what the word of this kind of pin is. I always want to say bobby pin, but it's not really a bobby pin, it's a safety pin. And we're going to insert it through that casing and go all the way in. Now, once we get in, most of the way in, we want to go ahead and stitch right here, stitch down that elastic so it doesn't go all the way in before we keep pulling, and then we'll do the same thing at the other end, so that way your elastic doesn't disappear on you in the wash or while you're wearing it, and then you have like one droopy side. That would not be good. Yeah, I've known from experience. So we want to go ahead and make sure we tack it down so that doesn't happen to you. All right, here it is. It's out at the other side. So I'm gonna go ahead and top stitch right there and then cut the little end off. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on this other side, top stitch, well, fit it in, top stitch it so that it stays in place when I'm wearing it. Alrighty, looking super cute. Almost done with our top. Now what we wanna do is, since I am doing the buttons, we can go ahead and move on to putting our buttons on. And what we're going to do is, we're not gonna catch that ruffle because we placed it away from that placket. If you wanna go ahead and hem, depending on what version you're making, you can go ahead and do either the double fold over that we did earlier. You can do serge the edge and then fold over. You can do serge the edge and fold over and give yourself your casing for the elastic if you're doing the elastic waistband, just like we did the shoulders. Or if you're moving on to the dress, then you would move on to the steps for the dress. I am not doing the dress, but if you check out the Be Graceful dress, that also has a casing on it, so you could use those directions to go from here to doing that version. Because I've got the button up, it's a little bit different, and I'm doing just the top version today. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do the double fold and hem, and then we're gonna move on to doing our buttons. Who's scared about buttons? Not I. Maybe a little bit. We're almost done. I can feel it. I can taste it. I am super excited because it's looking super cute. I can't wait to finish it. Look at how cute that's gonna be. So excited. Okay, so buttons. We're going to place our strip. Obviously, we're gonna move that ruffle out of the way, and we're going to measure first 1/2 inch down from the top. So basically past where that little area that we created is really 3/4 inch, so it's just about right there, and that's where we're going to start with our buttons. So I'm just gonna put my first button like right there, and I cannot find my air soluble pen, so I'm using a pencil. Please don't tell anyone because I'm not supposed to be doing that, but I'm just writing a little dot right there. And then we're gonna go down and we're gonna split them up 3 inches away from each spot. So I'm gonna go down 3 inches and mark as I'm going all the way down. And that's why I wanted to go ahead and hem so that I know where I wanna finish with my buttons. Yep. There it is. So this is my last button. I have these cute little wooden buttons that I'm going to be using, and I want to go ahead, and what I like to do when I'm gonna make my buttonholes is, oh my goodness, this is gonna be so cute. I don't think you could see my buttons that far away, so I wanted you to come closer. So what I like to do is I like to measure my buttons and how big they are. These are 1/2 inch buttons. And then sometimes I just go ahead and mark where they start and where they end. And that's where I'm going to start and end my buttonhole. Or I just use my ruler and just measure it. So I can put that buttonhole right in the middle. And then I like to draw a mark because I don't wanna mess up where my buttons are. Sometimes like being able to see where I'm starting and where I'm stopping helps me when I'm doing my buttonhole. Or if you have a buttonhole foot and a buttonhole like tool that makes the buttonholes much easier to make, but I don't have a tool. I just kind of do them on my sewing machine. My sewing machine does have like a buttonhole feature, so it does it basically on its own. I don't have to go zigzag back and forth. But still, I still need to kind of gauge where it's supposed to be. So there they are, they're marked, and we're gonna go over to the sewing machine and sew the buttonholes. So like I said, my sewing machine already has a button hole function. So it'll go zigzag stitch all the way back to where I need it to stop at. And then it'll go zigzag stitch over the top and zigzag stitch all the way back to the end. And then it'll do it again. But if you don't have that option, like I said, you just do a tight zigzag stitch all the way up and then all the way around. Just make sure you do it just as long as you need it for your button. Friends, we are almost there. Buttonholes are finished. I'm going to trim up all that excess fuzz threads everywhere. And then what I like to do is I use my rotary cutter and I just very nicely and gently open up those buttonholes. And then once I open them up, I place my buttonholes right on top of my top and even it out and everything, and then I go right in there through that buttonhole and make the mark for my button, so I know exactly where my button's gonna be. I don't just measure my button, just using the measurements that I use for the buttonhole, because I don't know if I got off a little bit on some of the measurements. So to be just really precise, I like to just go ahead and mark it and go straight on there and place my button and sew it on. Now I hand stitch my buttons on. I don't know how you do them, but I think I do have a feature on my sewing machine, but I've never actually even looked into it. I just kind of do it because that's just what I've always done. And I think it's kind of soothing for me. I don't know what it is, if it is for you or not, and you rather just get it done and over with on the machine. But I like to just sit there and take my time and hand stitch it on. It kind of relaxes me a little bit. I don't know. But that's all we're doing. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish my buttons and we're done. Yes! All right, my buttonholes have been opened. So I'm putting it right on top. I'm going with, whoops, there's my thread. I'm going with my pencil and marking exactly where I want my button to be. Your pencil, your, there's my little mark, your water soluble pen, your marker, whatever it is that you have. And then I'm just hand stitching this button on. So that's all I'm doing. So let's go ahead and finish stitching your button on and we'll be done. Friends, we are finished. How cute is this top? I love the little detail of the flounce. I love the gathered top. I love the buttons. I am so excited for this top. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I did. Please comment, like, share, subscribe if you haven't. Let me know if you have any questions below. But always comment and subscribe so you can be entered for our $50 Ellie and Matt gift certificate giveaway that we do monthly. So I hope you have a great rest of your day and I'll see you all next time. Bye.